thank you also. We hope that we will share with you 5 stories of a project that was started over 4 years ago, and at the end of which our presenters, each presenter will present their story, at the end of which we'll do a kind of synthesis and a discussion with Marta Babic of Enfosh and Carolina Lothbab, with who I introduced right now. Please come in. Executive Director?
Managing, but whatever.
At CAPE, please.
Yes, thank you very much. It doesn't matter for the meeting we are now. Yes, I would like to welcome all of you, these in person, as well as these that join us online. On behalf of the Polish National Energy Conservation Agency, who is the coordinator of the FinEERGo-Dom project, within which project we are meeting now, as well as of behalf of the National Fund for Environmental Protection and Water Management, who is a very important financial institution and financial partner of the FinEERGo-Dom project, as well as on behalf of other partners you will meet in a minute, that will tell the story that we have been developing for 5 years already, because it is 5 years when we met together with the National Fund, who was very curious to test and to replicate a scheme that was present in Latvia, who is also a project partner. We will tell you now, because we are coming to the end of the project. This is our final event, and we would like to tell you, well, how the replication was, how did we do it, and what are our 5 stories. I don't have any presentations because I would like to leave the space for others to present what we have achieved or learned. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. And through what they're going to present, they will see the work that we did. Actually, the building behind me is actually one of the buildings that was financed, whose owners are paying through the BEEF model, and which was the idea of replicating. And we will start right away with our project officer, Daniela Bache. And at this point, I'm not sure how we switch from physical to...
Good afternoon.
Hi, Daniela. Welcome.
Hi. Ah, yeah, I see that you can see me. Very good.
Yes.
Welcome.
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation and for the possibility to speak here today. I'm going to share a presentation, so I hope you will be able to see my slides in a second. Yes, there they are. Very nice. So, up. Good. Do you see the entire screen or these? Let me just quickly check if I can change the presentation mode. Not here. Now it should work. So, it's my pleasure to speak here in front of you today, and my part as project advisor at the side of CINEA, of the Climate Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency of the European Commission, is to give you a brief introduction on the policy context. It will not be long, so stay with me. I would like to quickly step into the building renovation in Europe. Where do we stand today? Where do we want to go? And how do we get there? And then hand over to the project coordination, or to the project team of FinEERGo-Dom, to give you an overview of how these questions were answered in the participating countries. So, the European building stock. You have probably all seen these figures before. We have a considerable amount of buildings in Europe. As a whole, it's roughly 24 billion square meters of floor area, out of which 3/4 are residential buildings. And as you know, most of our building stock is already there since quite a long time. So the building stock overall is relatively old. So meaning 85% of all these buildings have been built before the year 2000, which means they have to undergo a certain level of renovation sooner or later. Out of these entirety of buildings, almost roughly 3/4 are very poor in terms of energy performance. And as we will have most of our building stock of today, also in the future, there is a tremendous need for deep renovation of these buildings. However, only roughly 1% of our building stock is renovated in terms of energy renovation yearly. So I mean, there are done some minor renovations in 11% of the buildings, but really an energy retrofit is done in roughly 1% every year, and that's not the number which is true in all the countries. So it's in some countries it's 1%, in others it's even less than that. But then where do we want to go? You know that there is the European Green Deal strategy, which defines a greenhouse gas emission neutral or climate neutral economy in the European Union by 2050. And as an interim step, the Fit for 55 package has been published, which defines a reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions of minus 45% by 2030. And this Fit for 55 package entails a revision of all the important legislative pieces related to energy. So there is currently the finalization of the revision of the Energy Efficiency Directive ongoing. There is the revision of the Renewable Energy Directive ongoing, and there is also a revision of the Energy Performance of the Buildings Directive, the EPBD, ongoing, which strengthen the current targets, or which propose an even stricter target for the years to come in terms of energy efficiency targets, renewable energy targets, and so on. On top of that, the Renovation Wave communication has been published in 2021, which defines an increase of this renovation rate of 1% to 2%, which I've mentioned before, so a doubling of the renovation rate, and the renovation of 35 million buildings by 2030. So there is a quite ambitious target in terms of the building renovation in short term, but also then the longer term climate targets are very, very ambitious. What comes on top is that there has been there was the launch of the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which is also dedicated to a certain extent to climate related investments and measures in the member states. And on top of that, you know that the Repower EU strategy has been launched last year as a reaction to the war against Ukraine in order to phase out the dependency on fossil fuels, which in turn also includes a revision again and the strengthening of the energy efficiency targets and the renewable energy targets. So this is all in the loop and ongoing in terms of the ambition, but how do we actually really get there then? When you think of building renovation, and I think it's the same picture that Nicolas has shown you before, you might think of such a nice building after the renovation, or you think of such a building after the renovation of your multifamily home, but the reality oftentimes looks like that, because it's very hard to find a consensus in a homeowner association, to find suitable craftsmen, to find suitable contractors, to find the necessary financing. So the whole process of starting a renovation, defining the targets, taking the decisions is very difficult. And thus, for us, the relevant key cornerstones or requirements to achieve the renovation targets are concerning three different topics. It's the financing, it's the regulatory framework, and it's the technical solutions. So in terms of technical solutions, this is everything from the availability of craftsmen in the market over the trust into the craftsmen, into the contract models, and so on. In terms of the financing, it goes from financial instruments to grants to the accessibility and the process of application in the diverse instruments and creditworthiness of the applicants and so on and so forth. We will hear much more about these different aspects from the speakers afterwards when they are presenting the national solutions which they have implemented. What I just want to show you in terms of the financing part is what is done on the level of the European Union, also from the European Commission. On the one hand, we have the financing or the investment needs related to the legislative framework, the proposals of the legislative framework. So under the Fit for 55 package, we estimate that the annual investment needs to achieve those 2030 goals are roughly 150 billion euros. Repower EU adds another 300 billion euros from now until 2030. Specifically out of those 300 billions, 56 would go to investments in energy efficiency and heat pumps. And in total, this sums up to roughly 1,400 billion euros on energy efficiency demand side investments by 2030. So it's a tremendous investment need we have. On the other hand, we have our budget. So there are financial resources of roughly 1,800 billion euros overall. So this does not only include climate-related investments, but the investments, the total budget of the European Commission overall until 2027. And what you see here, I want to draw your attention to the small graph on the bottom left. What you see here is that the EU budget, this 1,800 billion, just make a small part of the overall investment need, meaning that the majority of the investments have to come from private sources in order to achieve those climate targets. So there is a huge need for this kind of financial instruments which leverage private financing. On the right-hand side, on the funding landscape, you have the different investment channels. So you have direct investments in the different programs from the European Commission. You have programs or instruments such as ELENA and LIFE PDA, which leverage private finance. And then you have research, innovation, and market uptake programs, which directly channel public funding into the markets. But as mentioned before, the majority of the investments in order to reach our climate targets has to be drawn or has to come from the private sources, from the private sector. And therefore, I'm very curious to hear afterwards the presentations of the speakers of the consortium who are going to introduce us to the guarantee scheme developed under FinEERGo-Dom. One last slide I have for you is a promotion of our current live 2023 Clean Energy Transition Call, which opened 2 weeks ago. I just want to mention that there are roughly 85 million euros available for the submission deadline of 16th November. You have all the relevant information on the Funding on Tender portal, where you have a link on this slide. And there will be an info day on the 1st of June, which is next Thursday. And I invite all of you to join us for this info day in case you are interested in the live Clean Energy Transition program of this year. And so I don't want to ask more of your time. I would hand over back to Nicolas. Thank you very much for the attention. And I am available for your questions, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniela. And on this, yes, let's hand over first to Austria. Manuela Christi of the Austrian Energy Agency will speak next. She is online, and we'll swap. And while we're doing that, that little gold ring that we were shown, you saw how much gold is necessary. There's a little bit of green, blue, and a little bit of blue, but it's a lot of gold, private money. And that's what this project is really about. How do we massively increase investments in the residential sector so that we actually deliver, as the picture that Daniela showed you and that we have, which of a building where we didn't do only energy efficiency measures. The 1% is energy efficiency measures. Actual deep renovations in Europe today is less than, let's say, 0.3%. We're switching over to Manuela. Is there any questions on the chat? But maybe we'll take the questions at the end. There's one question here.
You mentioned the gold ring.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Hi, you mentioned the gold ring.
Who are you?
My name is Tin Basic. I'm a, let's say, buildings consultant from Croatia. I used to be a business journalist.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all, and thank you all for inviting me here. Just one question. How much is the gold ring worth?
It's well over $1 trillion.
Okay.
And I think one thing we should know, these old buildings, but which is the richest country in Europe? Luxembourg. Who has the oldest buildings in Europe? Luxembourg. That's just something to keep in mind. Old does not mean to be thrown away. So, no questions. Shall we switch?
Thank you.
Hi, Manuela. I feel like I'm on
Hello.
I feel like I'm on
Hi.
Eurovision, Manuela. And now, from Vienna, Manuela, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you. I'm Manuela Schritti. I am civil engineer, graduated from the Vienna University of Technologies and working for the Austrian Energy Agency. We are part of the project team, and I joined the project not so long time ago. And today I'm representing our Austrian project team and filling in for my colleague Nagme, who is unfortunately not available today. But I'm trying to give you the brief overview of the lessons learned and our contribution to the project. So I'm trying to share my screen now. I hope you can see it.
Perfectly. Thank you, Manuela.
Great. So at first, I would like to give you some facts on the state of the energy service contracting in Austria, which is actually a long time ago, so before the idea of replicating the BEEF model was born. Historically, we know we have a long tradition in this sort of financing schemes in Austria. The Austrian energy contracting providers formed the umbrella organization called DECA, the Dachverband Energie Contracting Austria, in 2005, and 2012 it became the corporate platform. It was launched under the new name Dienstleister Energieeffizienz and Contracting Austria. This platform addresses all companies offering services for increasing energy efficiency and the increased use of renewable energy in Austria. These ESC-related energy refurbishments in Austria have been mainly carried out in public buildings until now, mainly schools and kindergartens. Only a few residential buildings were also refurbished with this model. The most common measures, among others, that carried out by the contracting providers have been the replacement of boilers, optimization of heating control systems, energy efficient lighting, and optimization of ventilating and cooling. These renovations were mainly the building equipment area. Sorry, not really. Okay. So I would like to also give you some idea about some previous example initiatives that have been done in Austria. One thing was the provision of model contracts already on behalf of the federal ministry. Similar to what the project content also is here. It isn't a tool for the customers of contracting services and provides the guidelines for the issues and subjects to be regulated. Another example is the Klimaaktiv Contracting Portal, where interested people could find contracting projects and companies and information support. And another initiative was done by the Energy Agency of Graz, who has been supporting organizations for tendering processes of ESC projects. The energy contracting financing scheme in the Austrian public sector is mainly employed by the Austrian Federal Real Estate Company. It's Bundesimmobiliengesellschaft, abbreviated BIG. BIG is owning and managing 2,000 properties with a rental area of 7.5 million square meters, mainly schools, kindergartens, but also office buildings and so on. And mainly the tenants are federal ministries. Now, according to the latest big sustainability report, almost 40% of the rental space was already under contracting agreements. This excludes universities, as they are not covered by contracting. Since the start of the energy contracting in 1999, with BIG, there were already 205,000 tons of CO2 and about 53 millions of energy costs saved up to 2021 in the properties owned by BIG. The Austrian project team also spoke to the BIG representatives who were engaged in the advisory board several times and learned a lot from the view of the public sector. What I skipped now was that the duration of these contracts was mainly 10 years. So now that we have seen the Austrian public sector, I would like to switch to the challenges that have been identified, especially in the area of the residential buildings. These challenges, sometimes barriers, were hindering to a special extent the renovation market in general, and the challenges arising from different sides, such as the construction industry, arising from policymakers, property owners, ESCOs, and project developers. What we heard now also from Daniela was that the renovation rate is only 1%, and this is across the EU, but also in Austria, and we see that it's stagnating, despite of that we are making a lot of efforts to boost the energy efficiency of buildings with financial measures such as motivational schemes, local and national subsidies and funding programs. So this is unfortunately fact, and in this context of the policymakers, there are these two main barriers for boosting the renovation rate. In Austria, it's a special situation concerning the housing policy competences, which are very fragmented. Means we have 9 different building regulations in our small country. The second may be especially seen as a barrier for implementing the energy service contracting project is the extensive range of these local and national subsidies actually that are there for financial and technical support for installations of renewable heating systems, thermal renovations, and so on. So it was observed that the market situation in Austria for the energy service contractors is not really easy due to this high subsidy level. Well, further challenges are given here. I just showed you a list of main challenges that were observed. One is also, for example, the building ownership structure. For privately owned buildings, it was observed that this ownership structure is hindering renovation in regards of that the majority of the owner have to agree to carrying out a construction project. There was a recent amendment in the Austrian Condominium Act, and it's expected to make this topic easier and make construction projects happen.
So as I understand it, without those two last ones, is true everywhere. What I'm hearing is that you're seeing a lot of the same barriers as we hear across Europe. What would have been the lessons learned that your team was able to, in a nutshell? Because BIG, for instance, has done over 300 million euros worth of investments in the federal buildings. And of course, as you said, it's only maybe 1% in the residential. So maybe we jump. Yeah, go ahead.
The barriers mainly are seen, or the challenges are mainly seen in the private sector. That's what, through the stakeholder meetings, obviously were revealed, that these barriers mainly are in the private sector, where the building owners are also not sometimes seeing the need for renovation or are overwhelmed with the construction costs or technical issues. So this concerns mainly the challenges in residential private buildings, sorry.
Yeah. On the other hand,
so
yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
On the other hand, you found that the basic regulatory environment allowed your firm to prepare the model contracts that we would use, pretty much the same as we have in Poland, in Bulgaria, Romania, Latvia, and Slovakia,
Yes.
which I think is actually. Go ahead.
It's these contracts are mainly concerning the not really deep renovation or thermal renovation, bigger construction projects, but mainly the building equipment, the heating system, and for that we have also a shorter duration of these contracts, like 10 years usually.
Yeah.
For bigger renovation, it would be a longer contract period. And we have seen, and this is also one point, that obviously the ESCOs are not really interested in longer contract periods. That was also a topic, longer than 10 years.
Yes, that was very, yes, we had some very good findings from talking to the big ESCO companies, and they're not really interested in 20-year periods or 30-year periods, which would make more sense in terms of when you're renovating a building. I think we'll stop here because the time is very short that we have.
Yeah, sure.
And we take back I think what you've given us as a basis is the fact that what we see everywhere in Europe, those main obstacles that you showed us.
Yes.
So we'll continue. Thank you very much, Manuela. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And now we will continue with Svetla, who is the Director for Central and Eastern Europe for Matic Investments.
Matic Management, yes. Thank you very much. If I may take this so I can move along my presentation. So very briefly, I would like to give you an overview of how our project developed in Slovakia, one of the 5 replicating countries for the Lviv project. In Slovakia, the legal and regulatory framework is quite well developed in terms of the ENPC contracting. There are 2014, 2015 have been very important in terms of implementing the EU directive. There has been a important piece of legislation which defines how these projects are implemented. So it's a very good basis. And in addition, Slovakia was within the implementing of the EU Eurostat's directive, has been one of the leading countries. In 2019, there was an amendment to the regulatory framework, and a change in the energy efficiency law was adopted, where for the private or the public stakeholders were obliged to use a certain format for doing ENPC projects, whereby the main problem for the public debt on the balance sheet was avoided, and this allowed for a lot of projects to be developed without burdening the anyway tight municipal budget. So there is a good framework, there is a good basis, and we looked at the private and the public sector within the project. So on the private side, there are a lot of multifamily housing buildings, so the stock which has been refurbished primarily through, in the past years, primarily through various grants and subsidy-based programs from EU and national funding schemes. The remaining, which have not been undergoing this type of renovation, have been, due to various reasons, complexity or certain specific issues, ownership problems and so on, are still open to do, but they would be difficult to put into a standardized ENPC format, so their specific approach would be most suitable for these individual cases. However, we see that there is a need for such kind of ENPC type of financing. There are a lot of social housing projects, for example, a lot of non-residential, industrial, commercial properties, and there would be a very good opportunity to implement the ENPC contracting format. In terms of the public sector, of course, buildings have been refurbished over the past years. There have been various programs, operating programs from the EU, also on national level, which have allowed certain number of buildings to be refurbished, undergo deep renovation, but the size has not been enough. So there is a huge amount of public stock which requires certain deep renovation measures, and those are required as a precondition before implementing energy efficiency measures. So it would be very difficult to go to a public building, implement energy efficiency measures without taking care of the obstacles which need to be taken care before moving to the energy efficiency. So many buildings have not been renovated over the last 30 years, and what we have seen is that these repair works, structural repair works, are really essential. Unfortunately, they are of a sizable investment, so it's a major investment needed in order to do this. This type of renovation requires way longer payback period, 30 to 40 years sometimes. So it would be very difficult to put it under ENPC and try to finance it or refinance it through the energy savings. They only can be done for energy efficiency measures, which are then thermal insulation of the buildings, changing of the windows, changing the heating systems, and so on. And in Slovakia, the problem in the public sector has been the problem is that there are not enough funds to finance this deep renovation. The budgets of the state institutions which own public buildings are very limited. The municipal budgets are also very tight and selective. And there is a problem to finance these upfront costs, which are so significant. Therefore, the banking sector also is not too much into this, given the extensive long payback period. So we see here the lack of grants or the lack of possibility to do some blending of grants and private financing as one of the barriers, and have been working with different stakeholders in different discussion formats to try to find solutions for looking at these possibilities. So what we have within the project is our objective. We've tried to identify what are the barriers and try to find from the lessons learned how it can be improved. We have seen that the need for combining deep renovation and energy efficiency measures for public buildings is of the essence. There are certain limitations in the regulatory framework which make it combined from procurement perspective a little bit challenging, but this can be worked out. There are also some restrictions which we have seen, whereby the repayment of these energy efficiency measures is allowed per law only through the savings from energy alone, but we have seen that sometimes you can reach savings through operational or maintenance works, and that's something which can be considered and adjusted, because that would allow shorter payback period and also will lower the financing cost. What we have seen also in terms of the ESCOs or the ENPC providers, the risk has been increasing, so performance risk, the payment risk, and they are a little bit hesitant to take over all these risks. So one has to work together with financing institutions and to discuss where the challenges are and how to find solution that all parties involved are in agreement and can move forward. Then we have seen also, when we have engaged with stakeholders, that on the financial side, the financial institutions are a little bit hesitant. First, because in order to have a viable, bankable project, one needs all parties to be on board with the same understanding and happy to share the risk. And the risk sharing has been mostly going to the ENPC providers, so they are more exposed. And given that the payback periods are an important factor for banks, it is essential to find a way how to separate the deep renovation with extremely high investment costs with only energy efficiency, where you can within 5 years come up with very good, 5-7 years come up with very good results. So we have done some work on that, and we believe with the improvement there will be good potential for involving and engaging more. We have seen also some complexities in terms of procurement, and as I said, combining the energy efficiency and deep renovation within one project would make it more easy for everyone. So that's one area one can also in the future discuss very quickly. Within these 4 years, we've spoken with a number of stakeholders. I wouldn't go into the details. I think all project partners have a very good experience. We've developed a pipeline of projects that can be done in the future. Of course, all challenges are to be considered, like rising construction costs, different volatile environment, but in the long term, there is the potential to bring in private money. And just finally, I would say, as all partners, we've also developed for Slovakia the Sunshine Platform. We've developed, based on the Lviv framework contracts, we have developed the Slovak version in line with legislation for fighting, for energy savings guidelines and everything, I would say all stakeholders have expressed positive statements that ENPC is essential. It will bring the money which is necessary to the market, and one has to work in that direction. I think as a brief overview, yeah, that was on my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Svetla. And I think you pointed out something that we've seen in all our partner countries, which is there are certain rules that are standing in the way, be it the issue of contract duration. And one of the beauties that you did bring out is the separation of the risk between performance risk for the person who can take it best, which is the service provider, and from the other side, the payment risk, which we can have an external financial institution take on the EBIF, or in the case of Poland, the EPC Plus. I will now give word to Kiro Rajcev, who is the advisor to Ecolinaire and the president of the ESCO Association of Bulgaria.
Thank you.
Malia.
Thank you, Nicholas. I will have to pack 4 years into 10 minutes. Easy. I will stress on the main points. And if some of you are interested in some more details, I'm available here, so approach me. I will be very excited to talk about our experience with the FinEERGo-Dom project. It's the usual story. We first started with researching the Latvian experience, the Latvian building energy efficiency facility. A successful project completed some years ago, and the idea of the FinEERGo-Dom project was to replicate that experience in Bulgaria, Romania, Slovakia, and Austria. Surely, we had also to look at the Bulgarian specifics. As most of the countries, we have our advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages that we have include relatively mature ESCO legislation present. Also, we have good experience with renovating residential buildings. On the other side, unfortunately, the Bulgarian market is grant-oriented. We count on 100% subsidies, nothing less works. So we had to also take that into account in order to implement the LBIF experience in Bulgaria. The LBIF experience is kind of market-oriented model. Market-oriented models usually don't work very well on a grant-oriented market. The Bulgarian is also in that number. Another disadvantage, unfortunately, we have a caretaker government for the last 4 years, which means not a lot on the policy side, which is very important for renovation policy, energy efficiency, etc. The FinEERGo-Dom advantage, what we managed to learn from LBIF and from the FinEERGo-Dom project, first we got access to a pretty high-level contracting system, which includes energy performance contract, maintenance contract, forfeiting contract, etc. Of course, we had to adapt that contracting systems to the Bulgarian peculiarities. We managed to do so. This contracting system is pretty much publicly available to everyone. We also got access to a relatively high-level risk monitoring system. You know, it's important to know the risk profiles of your clients if you are going to finance them. Of course, we had to also adapt that for the Bulgarian peculiarities. We got the Sunshine platform. It's a cloud platform, which basically gives access to investors, homeowners, ESCO companies, municipalities. Everything is put in one place so that each stakeholder is in sync with the project progress. You know that these kind of projects are pretty complex, so having everything put in one place in a transparent way definitely makes the work easy for everyone. So we started thinking, how can we replicate the Latvian journey of the homeowners? Can we do the same journey in Bulgaria? We had various building blocks on which we could build on. These are typical stuff for a renovation program. Some of them we managed to implement, some of them not. For sure, in order to make that replication possible, we built a lot of partnership with the Sustainable Energy Development Agency, with the Energy Efficiency Fund in Bulgaria, the ESCO Association, etc. So this was one of the first important things in our project, that we managed to build a lot of partnerships, which was a game changer for us. For example, with the support of the Sustainable Energy Development Agency, we managed to improve the ESCO legislation. We practically opened it to subsidies and grants. We also kind of make it in sync with the European legislation, especially the Energy Efficiency Directive. With the Bismart, another Horizon 2020 project, we managed to build, I would say, we managed to influence the public authorities to introduce the FinEERGo-Dom model into the Bulgarian Resilience and Recovery Plan, which was a big step for us forward. By the way, the director of the Sustainable Energy Development Agency of Bulgaria is here if you're interested. From his perspective, he's also be glad to talk about it. On the technical assistance side, we managed to build partnership with the European City Facility. It's a technical assistance program giving access to 60,000 euro, which are accessible to municipalities. Municipalities can use this money to conduct feasibility studies, to conduct awareness-raising campaigns, and for the residential sector, this is crucial. It's one thing to have one client, it's totally another thing to have 20 or 30 homeowners in one building. You have to manage all of them in parallel, so it can become a hill very, very quickly. We also are in good partnership with the ELENA facility under the European Investment Bank. These are big time investments in energy efficiency, but we are kind of supporting the stakeholders if they are interested in getting access to this kind of technical assistance. About the policy context, it was very important for us to introduce the FinEERGo-Dom model into the Bulgarian long-term renovation strategy. It's till 2050, it's not till 2030, but yeah. Also, we managed to introduce the model into the National Resilience Plan. We improved the ESCO regulation. Also, we are in good contact with the consultants who are structuring the Bulgarian Decarbonization Fund. There is going to be an ESCO segment servicing the residential sector. So, in the end, we try to integrate with policy and national programs in order for this idea to get traction in Bulgaria. The one-stop shop in Bulgaria, which is making all that possible, includes some key partners. Of course, Econoler, the leading partner in Bulgaria, the Bulgarian Energy Efficiency Fund, the ESCO Association, and the technical assistance partners that come from the Eurocity facility and ELENA. Another key enabler, if I may say, in Bulgaria is the BUBIF, which is already registered. The idea is BUBIF is offloading the ESCO balance sheet so that they can reinvest their financial resources in other renovation projects. Nicholas probably will explain in more details what is the status of BUBIF in Bulgaria, Romania, etc. The FinEERGo-Dom one-stop shop follows some guidelines that were provided by LABIF and BUBIF, so that the risk management side is taken care of, so that institutional and international investors are also interested in putting their money in renovation of residential buildings. Just very quickly, we have enabled 3 journeys in Bulgaria. The first one is based on the National Resilience and Recovery Plan. The FinEERGo-Dom project can count on 80% subsidy. This phase of the resilience plan is starting next month, most probably. In that case, we are kind of can provide the sunshine platform, the awareness raising, the feasibility studies. But the most important thing is that the ESCO is possible to be implemented under the plan. All that is coming because of that new instrument that is available for Bulgarian homeowners. The second journey that we are making possible in Bulgaria is through the European City Facility. Essentially, municipalities can count on some support to raise awareness, to conduct feasibility studies. This is key to unlock investments. We are partnering with the Bulgarian partner of that facility. And also, Elena, this is for big time investments. We're talking for investments in the range of 30 million euro. And also technical assistance in the range of 1.5 or 1.6 million euro, quite a lot of money. But again, in Bulgaria, we also have interest for such kind of project. If I have more time.
In closing, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Okay. Very big interest in the subsidy program. It's starting literally next month. A lot of discussions with mayors, with deputy mayors who are responsible for the innovation works in their regions. I'm very interested what will happen with the Watch pool, with the Elena opportunity. We are talking about a pool of more than 70 buildings of one of the Bulgarian government agency. It will be the first project most probably in Bulgaria if that happens. I hope that we will have a regular government starting from tomorrow or today, I don't know really, but if we are kind of stabilize the context, I think that it's going to be possible as well. And yeah, information, awareness raising, dissemination, this is key. And we have learned a lot from the LABI, from ISEP, which is also a partner and who is transferring his know-how with the communication with the homeowners. It was key for us to succeed. A lot of stakeholders, a lot of meetings. Again, the Sustainable Energy Development Agency was pretty supportive to us and allow us to take part in their campaigns with the ESCOs, with the energy managers, etc. So in that way, on that partnership, we managed to get access to quite a lot of people. So this in a nutshell. I'll be happy to go into more details during the break or after the event. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirill. And I think one of the great things to demonstrate through this is Svetla really described very well how there are barriers. And what you demonstrated is through a lot of communication, a lot of meetings, you were able to start shifting those barriers in the direction so that it actually becomes a support and not an obstacle. And we'll now hear from Vegan Fleischer, who will be speaking about Romania's work. Dr. Fleischer is a project manager for Matig Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. I'm happy to be here and to share some information regarding the specific situation in Romania. I try to keep it short because you got a lot of information from Mrs. Bachner, from our colleagues from FinEERGo-Dom, so I will point out only the main points. I prepared a summary and some benefits of cooperation, and I will present briefly the partners of our project in Romania and, of course, what is more important, a business case and the target structure for this. Regarding the summary, of course, as it was mentioned, energy efficiency is a priority of the European Union and also of the Romanian government. And for this, we try to find a solution to to solve the threat regarding the business model of the district heating, meaning that, as you know, there are some problems because the high energy consumption for old buildings, and when we improve this, then it can be an opportunity for them. For Romania, the two companies, Matic Management Partners and CIME Capital, supported by the FinEERGo-Dom project, provide solution for energy efficient investments which are paid from energy cost savings. So this is the key idea. And of course, these investments are on long term. The assets life is more than 25 years. The investment for energy efficiency normally is between 200 and 400 euro per square meter, and we can achieve an energy saving up to 60%, depending also of the building. And the good part is that this energy savings can be used to finance the investment. And of course, this is also a big benefit for the building owner. I would like to also to share you the information that as presented by the other colleagues, also in Romania there is a big potential. There are a lot of old buildings or buildings with low energy efficiency, and for this reason we have to find the solution to convince them to benefit from deep building renovation. The project partners in Romania, as I mentioned, Matic Managed Partners, which offers the project management and the experience of some experts, and we have CIME, who is supporting regarding the financing and also with some experts. And how it works, for Romania we find a solution to establish a joint venture with two parts. One is a builder, so a company who can do the investment, who is doing the project management and is cooperating with external partners, and CIME Green Building, who is doing more the financing and taking over the financial risk. I will show you also the target structure. There you can see the model which we prepared with the two main partners which I present to you, so CIME Builder and the CIME Green Building company, and together this structure can solve the main problems which appear in organizing and conducting some project. And at the end, I want to present you our business plan and for a project in Romania. It's a project, an investment for a building with 400 square meters. The need of investment for the energy efficiency investment is about 100,000 euro. 400 square meter, and the price per square meter is 250 euro. The annual heating cost for the existing building is about 28,000 euro. It's quite high because the energy efficiency of this building is very low. And this is also opportunity, because if it's low, then you can improve a lot. So after investment, we will have saving of energy cost of 50%, meaning 14,000 euro. And for the financing, as I mentioned, we need 100,000 euro. So the loan and the including interest of 3% and administrative cost so the complete investment will be about 140,000 euro, which has to be paid to the financing organization. And taking in consideration that we have saving from in value of 40,000 euro, 14,000 euro per year. So in 10 years we can pay back this investment, the cost, and so this would be 10 years of amortization period. And of course, if we taking consideration that investment can be used at least additional 15 years. So we will have the saving of 40,000 euro per year and for a period of 15 years. So additional savings from 200,000 euro in total. So these are the main points from my side. Thank you for your attention, and of course I'm also open to answer questions if they are, and if not...
Thank you, Vigan. Any questions? I'd just like to point out that we started out with Austria that was showing to us all the barriers and the very big problems that they had and the difficulty in moving forward. Then we then saw what was happening in Slovakia, where actually the problems were really refined. And I think one of the points you made, which we find here, is the point that it's not just about the works, about the energy savings, it's also about maintenance works that you save. And there's a huge amount of savings potential there, which we know because we don't notice these costs. So then we get to Bulgaria and we see how the top-down aspect is so important, and that's what Kira really focused on. And finally, we have a business plan and somebody who's actually going to have an investment, which brings us to Poland. And Marta Babic, who is a deputy director at NFOSH, the National Fund for Wastewater, for the Environment and Wastewater Management, our main partner. And thank you very much for now showing us a whole picture, the EPC Plus. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. In fact, in Poland, we have identified the very same problems, the very same obstacles as our colleagues in other member states. And we went straight on to try to address them since the National Fund is the institution that has been collecting environmental fees and reinvesting money in Poland for green projects, nowadays mainly energy transition projects. And since we have been forever supervised by the Ministry of Environment, today Ministry of Climate and Environment, when we have identified the legislative program and the need for clear legislative framework for ESCO projects and EPC contracts in Poland, we were given assistance and in fact on the way to proposing and drafting the ESCO and EPC Plus support program. We had the pleasure and the support by the ministry, and the Polish bill on energy efficiency of buildings was amended in order to set stable, clear basis for that kind of project. So once the Ministry of Climate provided the legislation, we were ready with the holistic system supporting investments in ESCO model. We have used the EPC Plus contract, the energy performance contract, as a fundament of the cooperation between the housing owner in Polish context that are municipalities, that are housing communities and housing cooperatives. These are the Polish legal system set owners of housing, especially the multi-flat housing, and as suggested by the Latvian example, as inspired by Nicholas and the project back in Latvia, we decided to start from the municipality, from the multi-flat sector. Under the framework we have elaborated, we have decided to offer a grant to a housing house owner, a grant that would be directly shifted to the ESCO company, a company that we would invite to perform the tasks of the project manager, of also the one who would maintain the building, who would be involved with the building after the renovation has taken place, for years helping and cooperating with the building owner to make sure that the building is not only renovated, but that it is managed over time in a way that optimizes the economic and also environmental effect of the newly renovated building. Yet again, as inspired by the LaBeef example and the analysis provided by the European Investment Bank, we decided to invite a partner, a financial institution, that would be ready to purchase the receivables from ESCO company once the guaranteed savings after renovation have been confirmed, and we have agreed that one heating season would be enough for the ESCO company to prove that the guaranteed savings are really there. And last but not least, our holistic system wouldn't work if we were not able to provide a professional energy advisor, and in our case that was Carolina and colleagues from CAPE, an energy advisor that would lead the the building owner through the process and level out the fact that ESCO company knows perfectly the technologies, the legal framework of such projects, and most often the building owner is not an expert in that field. So energy advisory was there set to make sure that both partners under the project know enough to be fully aware of the duties, of the benefits of the project. And PFR, which is the Polish Development Fund, was invited to make sure that there is an offer for the ESCO company of purchase of receivables, but also of providing other types of financing if needed by the ESCO company. What we did was seeking more money to be allocated to our program, as we considered trust building to that new innovative scheme of supporting building renovations, and we thought that our seed money of almost 2 million euro would not be enough to prove that institution as ours really believes in that new model. So what we did, we addressed the EIB, the operator of modernization fund in the EU, and we asked for tenfold budget, and they said yes, no problem. They also said that if the budget is being used up, please come, we will increase it for Poland. Yet again, with that impressive budget, we decided to go for the first pilot call for proposals. We offered that first and foremost to the multi-family residential buildings, yet again, inspired by the Latvian experience, and we plan, and we have already started works on the second pilot call for proposals that would be extended also to the public utility buildings. And we have plenty of signals that there is a huge potential there, that local governments are waiting for us to open up that another call extended to public utility buildings. What we've done to make sure that the trust to that innovative scheme would be greater, and what we did to make sure that the long-term, or at least medium-term cooperation between the owner of a building and ESCO company is assured, we have proposed a layout, draft of energy performance contract, we have added plus. So we have included possibility of not only supporting energy efficiency measures, but also up to 20% of costs to be directed at measures in the building that make the building more comfortable, safer environment for the ones that live in them or that use it. To build that trust and to make sure that energy efficiency, that is something that a regular person cannot actually see, is being supported by measures that are easily visible to those that need to be directly involved in the ESCO project. So we have decided to require at least 30% decrease in final energy consumption under the project, but if someone was ready to be more ambitious, we have promised under the program to offer up to the 30% in grant to the building owner. And of course, as mentioned at the very beginning, we require the building owner to ship that 30% grant straight to the ESCO company to make sure that ESCO company is being financially secured from the very beginning. Of course, we are aware that nnovation in that way covers the most risk-based, the least energy efficiency generating part of the program, but still, that's how we see our role to diminish the risk for the project partners. The results of the first call for proposals that we directed to the owners of multi-flat buildings is as shown. We have seen 9 pre-applications submitted to nnovation. Pre-applications, that is a solution that we decided to go for here. A pre-application can be filled in and sent to nnovation by any person you can meet in the street. You don't need specialized knowledge. You don't need to be energy advisor, as skilled as CAPE colleagues. You just need to have general knowledge of the building you think should be renovated, and you can fill it in and send to nnovation. Our expert will tell you, together with the CAPE experts, whether or not you are a good candidate for the support program. So we have found 7 candidates, and we have managed to involve 2 strongly enough so that they have actually asked officially for the money under the program on the very last working day of April. And now we are working hard in close cooperation with the owners of that buildings to make sure they find ESCO company that is willing to perform the project and that they sign an EPC plus contract beneficiary to both sides of the agreement. So here you can see the first example of our pilot project attendees. This is a set of buildings with 13 flats in the Pomeranian region in Poland. I hope in a year or 2, the latest, we'll be able to show you a picture of a newly renovated building here as appealing as the one that Nicholas started our meeting today with. This is the second example, the second project attendee, again from the same region, so probably the northern Poland is going to be the game changer when it comes to ESCO project in Poland. And here we have one building of 29 flats and a 5 million zlotys, almost 1 million euro budget. Of course, we do not consider that a success to be satisfactory enough. We are not going to stop there. We are now preparing the second call, directed also and extended to the public utility buildings, but also we have decided, together with the European Commission, to make sure that under the cohesion policy 2021-2027 in Poland, the first call for proposals for energy efficiency of buildings is going to be directed to public buildings, and we will require it to be within the ESCO and
plus.
EPC plus model. Exactly. So this is only the beginning. We can see super high expectations and general public interest in that model in Poland. We have already managed, together with the Ministry of Climate, to put in place a stable, clear legislation allowing the projects to go on. We see great potential in public building sector in Poland, and we can hear from the ESCOs in Poland that financial liquidity at the stage of investment and the year or heating season where they need to prove that guaranteed savings are in place is what they need, and they would expect us to extend the financial offer also to cover that period. So we are thinking how to do that, and we already have the structural funds as well as the modernization funds money to do that. So with that vibe, I hope positive one, I would pass to the colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. I think what Marta just demonstrated was the whole package, but most of all, be it Kirill, be it Marta, be it Svetla, one of the main points for these projects to work is we need project champions. It doesn't matter how good the law is. I think that Svetla and Manuela both mentioned the issue of working with homeowners of multifamily buildings. It's really about the champions of the projects who are willing to lead these projects forward. And so what we'll do is we'll have two of the champions. Carolina, who was in rugby, you have a person who stands behind everybody to make sure they're going to get to the line. This was Carolina. And of course, Marta, who did get the ball across the line. So we'll now have a short discussion. But perhaps before we start, we let everybody stretch themselves because they've been sitting still. Yes. There's one confusion from the audience. Yes. What Marta did say is the first stage, these are all privately owned buildings. So the person who wrote, please send a pre-application to Marta. You could maybe still get something done. Any other questions? Carolina is looking at me like, do you have any questions, Carolina?
No, I don't have any questions. I might have any answers.
But you have answers?
Please.
Okay.
And if we could continue, if anyone needs to stretch out, no problem.
Please, stand up, stretch for a second. No, seriously. Even with the windows open, I can feel that the oxygen level's already down. So.
But the weather resulted in turning on the air conditioning, unfortunately, but we feel better now.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe I will set up our chairs. I'll bring a chair over. And my notes. So this is the idea is that we're having a round table, a discussion, so as to sharpen some of the findings that you heard across all of our partners. And any of you can participate if you have any questions or any thoughts about what are the expectations and the goals that we've set for ourselves. As Carolina asked me, why can't you be more optimistic? Because when I first made my summary of how do we start this, the situation is grim. This is going to be one of the hottest summers. We're going to break the barrier that we are not supposed to break. The cost for homeowners, especially in multifamily buildings, is very high without a lot of renovation happening. Maybe Marta, you continue first. Taking everything that we have in consideration, what is your first reaction after? This is actually a celebration about what we've done for the last 5 years for some of us. Go ahead.
Gladly. I must admit that I think our project has been so timely, as unfortunately 2022 was a year where Russia attacked Ukraine, and the whole Europe and probably most of the world have suffered the drawbacks, the consequences, the volatility on the energy market. And I realized that what each and every inhabitant of Europe can do is saving energy in their households. And there's no better way to do that than to renovate your building and then to manage energy and use energy in that building in an energy and at the same time economy-wise way. So I kind of felt patriotic due to the fact of being so much involved together with CAPE in the scheme and the pilot call for proposals. And I actually consider that being a patriot and being solidar with the Ukrainian friends.
Being a European.
Being a European, exactly.
Yes, a lot of what we heard are issues of education, be it policymakers, be it owners.
Yes, education, education, and education. As Marta said, we played the role of energy advisor, and this is a very crucial role. This is one of our lessons learned, that this is really, really very important, important role. As well, it seems that everybody knows that, you know, they have to heat their house, they have to spend money for the heating, but in terms, you know, if they come, they don't know how, they don't know where to get the money from. Well, there is a huge potential in education in doing what Kirill was presenting, one-stop shops, actually, in order, you know, your client, the owner of the building comes and, you know, receives all necessary information, including education, including financing, and so on. So, yes, yeah, education is very, very important.
I think education to understand, but I don't know about receiving all the information. I think one of the problems is there's too much information. And I think what homeowners, and that was one of the goals, I think, in both LABIF and EPC Plus, is to offer a homeowner a clear picture. This is what you're buying at this price over the next 10 to 25 years and at the moment, but we think it should be 20 to 40 years, so that the homeowner doesn't have to have lots of discussion about kilowatt hours, tons of CO2, et cetera, which is unfortunately a little bit of what's happening, I think, today in many of the discussions.
That's true, and also the owner has to have a clear picture where to finance it from. Well, actually, we experience kind of a cannibalism of of financing. Yes, we are fighting for the client to be financed because there are a lot of money lying on the floor, but you know, also the building owner, you know, has to choose something and not necessarily knows at once what's the best for him.
What's the optimal long-term choice for him?
Exactly.
And this is happening throughout Europe, unfortunately. Yes, not just in Poland. There are examples of this happening in France as well. And of course, when we go back to that ring, and we see how little money that really is compared to what's really needed, it's really too bad that we're wasting our energy at not focusing in the same direction. Marta?
Exactly. I would extend the issue of education directly to issue of trust to new innovative financing models. I guess all over Europe, due to the EU funds, but also due to the fact that we probably were not aware of the scale of needs in the renovation sector that Daniela presented in her introductory speech. We have got accustomed to a simple scheme of providing high grant to a project, checking whether or not it's been finalized, and abandoning it. And today we know that it's not only about giving grants, we need to ensure 100% of the financing architecture, and also we need to make sure that the renovation, the building that we have invested so much money into, is being managed, is being used in the most effective way.
Measurement and verification. key piece of our EPC Plus.
And
BEEF.
EPC Plus contract allows us, ensures that even requires that the cooperation between the building owner and the ESCO company is medium or even long term. So this is what we should seek for.
Yeah, the energy service provider continues to be responsible for the performance according to the contract that they signed. And one of the annexes of the contract is actually a maintenance manual. It's one of the annexes to the contract that it's signed between the service provider and the owner. So they know already what needs to be done when and how often. And again, this is education. I think then if we go to the other side of education, our policymakers, for instance, this idea that you cannot do works and energy measures. And therefore, in Slovakia, and it's true across Europe, we can't do the renovation of a number of buildings because there's no money to do the works. It doesn't make sense to do them without the energy renovation, but you can't combine the two, which is really, I think here it's more a question of a business model. Energy service providers have in the past focused on single product measures. In other words, if you were a company that sold valves, then when you did an energy efficiency project, you sold valves. You did not have other companies work with you on the project. Whereas in our case, the energy service provider actually acts as, I would say, more of as the orchestra conductor, bringing together a number of different disciplines under his umbrella, and then making sure that the project is carried out fully according to the full scope of works, and not just the energy efficiency measures. And in this situation, we do get tremendous savings. Go ahead, please, Carolina.
Well, yes, but it's not in the past. It's actually today. Marta was approached today by one of the attendants to the conference and asked, well, you promised in the cohesion funds a lot of money for certain technology. And Marta, you can say what you replied.
So, in fact, support schemes for a given technology for individual solution in a building, that belongs to the past. We used to do that, we admit that, but today we know that we want to invite a company, an investor, ready to cover all kinds of technology solutions and ready to be there and to service and provide deep renovation of the whole building. There's nothing more deterring to the building's inhabitants or users than different companies entering the building all year through and redecorating it and interfering with the daily life of the people who live there or who work there. So what we want to support today are holistic thermal modernization projects that do entail both the installation, the windows, the IT software that helps to manage the building, all sorts of technical solutions that make sense, that are already affordable and that can coexist and cooperate together. We will definitely stop funding and supporting individual technologies. We want coherent, holistic projects to have inside.
And here, I'll just turn into an American manufacturer for a minute. The fact is, ma'am, that I don't want you to do that, and I'm going to push very hard at the Commission to make sure you can't. But that is true. This idea of a holistic renovation goes against the business model of a number of manufacturers. And they have a lobby. Energy efficiency does not have a lobby. Energy efficiency first principle, basically everybody says it, but if you look at all the latest documents that we're getting from Europe, in fact, the EPBD recast is what's supposed to be first in line at the moment. But if you look at the publication, the press releases, you'll see renewable directive is first in the list. And every time that we talk about renewables and energy efficiency. So actually, here I ask you all to remember this, mention it to yourselves, make the effort to say energy efficiency and renewables. Because once we know how efficient we can be, then we can scope how much renewable energy we need, and not the other way around, which is actually what was being done in Spain at one point. Because you were putting in enough renewables, you didn't need to make the building more energy efficient, because you have lots of sunshine. Why should we bother? Which brings us to policymakers. And what can we do with our policymakers? How can we help them with education?
I must say that in Poland we were lucky to have the line minister absolutely aware of the needs and willing to work in parallel with us. We were drafting the support scheme, and the colleagues at the ministry were drafting and passing the legislation through the Polish parliament. So we do admit that this is absolutely crucial that policymakers are there with you, working ahead or at least parallel to what our endeavors to design the financing scheme are.
Yes, and to design them carefully and reasonably in order to have all the subject covered. Well, when we began our FinEERGo-Dom project, it was not really divided between financing private and financing public buildings, but along and that's what we are facing with our pilot projects, that we have only 2 projects left, well, only or at least, yes, but they are public institutions, you know, they are public institutions owning multifamily buildings, and we have no housing cooperative or housing associations, because actually our government, wisely or not wisely, I think wisely at the moment, having in mind the second round of EPC Plus for public buildings, that the private can use other instrument, which is thermomodernization fund. And it seems that in Poland is more thermomodernization fund is for private buildings, and I hope we will launch EPC Plus 2, and this will be more dedicated to public buildings, because there are different specificities of these 2 target groups. Yes, the second is, for example, acting under procurement law. So the procedures are typically different from the private ones, so yes.
Yes, but I think those are more details, in fact, because one of the great things is we got to meet with the Austrian State Agency for Real Estate, BEAC, which is responsible for the energy performance contracting done. And as I mentioned, they've done over 300 million so far. And in listening to the head of this group, his comments were exactly the same as the ones we make about multifamily buildings. The difficulty of working with the owner in this case, but actually there's not just one owner, because there are different stakeholders within a building who actually put their foot down. And then the issues they had with the users, and how users were not respecting the requirement. It was quite extraordinary to hear that actually it is actually quite similar. The public procurement aspect, sorry, I think here, this is something that, again, if we can standardize across Europe what should be the public procurement, because it's the same procurement anywhere, it's the same thing, whether it's a private building or a public building.
Yes, but we are coming back again to education, because when we are piloting, well, the first thing we ask, well, this is a building, is it eligible? Well, without an energy audit, we are hardly to say. And actually, one of the lessons learned, because energy audit was not the subject for the subsidy these days. Well, maybe this is something to be changed as well. Yes.
Audit.
Yes.
A good audit.
And the second, I mean, education, because well, our advisory services were not very much targeted to legal services, because we thought if it's a public institution, and you saw the public procurement law is all across Europe, and this is the standard procedure how public utilities, public bodies, I mean, purchase services, goods and services, there will be no problem. And well, surprisingly or not, there is a problem. I mean, these 2 required some also advice in this subject.
More education. Then coming back to the ring, just to remind you, we were shown a ring of how much money is needed, and of that ring, only at, I would say, maybe 5–6% was public money. All the rest is supposed to come from private finance. And so far, even a model that has proven its value in Latvia, you still don't see a lot of interest from private finance. And on the other hand, as you mentioned, we have everyone used to this idea of grants and resisting. In fact, people are saying, I did well not to renovate my building because my government is subsidizing my heat anyway, so I've actually did a double save. I didn't have the headache and I already have the money back. To change this mentality, one thought that I will throw out there is what about, which I mentioned to you one time, is this idea of tax rebates to the companies that do the work over time. So they do the work. Once the work is done, they get a nice chunk of tax rebate. But then they get it for the next 20 years as long as the performance is met. Maybe that's something that would actually incentivize private sector companies to get involved. If they want to get involved, they know how to find the financing. But that is the main issue, getting the private sector finance. And that was why this project was started, but it's still an issue.
And it's what we
Optimistic.
plan and what we hope to overcome by NFOS involvement. We hope,
Providing
at least in Poland, if NFOS, as an institution that has already co-funded a project of over 55 billion euro over the course of its existence, is believing in ESCO and EPC model enough to put over 100 million zlotys just for a start, just for a warm-up, we hope that it would convince the private money providers to actually look into it and join in.
To act as a magnet, exactly. Carolina, some last words?
About, again, policymakers, education, well...
Maybe thanking our partners.
Well, of course. I would like to thank, well, not only the partners, everybody, the pilot projects. Again, we have two. Yes, what I wanted to mention that 5 of them are still doing the projects, but not with EPC Plus program. Yes, they are doing other financing, but they are still on board, and that proves...
They were offered a higher grant somewhere else.
Yes. And that was the problem at the beginning, you know, of our project, because I mentioned that we have begun 4 years ago, and well, we were creating the pipeline of projects already for this 4 years ago, and everybody said, well, we will think about it, but there are, you know, big subsidies coming out. There is new programming period. It was 4 years ago. Sorry, but is a thunderstorm coming?
And in between, that institution sent me a presentation explaining to me how Poland didn't need to have any more buildings renovated because they were all done.
Yes, exactly. So yes, subsidies, but Marta always says, well, this is it's coming the end of subsidies era, and the ESCO should be a model that finances from its own. And, you know, these first subsidies are just seed money, yes, to move the market.
Thank you. Any questions from our audience? Very well. Well, then, thank you very much all for coming. Do you have any questions from online? We had one which we answered. I guess we're good. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to our organizers for having, at the last minute, allowed us to organize this. And Kyrill, well done, man. This was really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.